Herradura.
Hey everybody, Adam Boston with Taste CLE, Tequila Fest USA, coming to you live tonight. We are doing a very special tequila live virtual tasting with one of my personal favorite tequilas, and you can tell by the wonderful mirror that is on my wall. Herradura is one of my favorites. I've been drinking this stuff for, oh geez, I don't know, decades. And it was really one of the first tequilas I ever got into, and the one that really turned me over to make myself a real tequila lover. So very much appreciate everyone tuning in. And we're going to have a great night planned tonight. And I got Pete Wagner from Brown-Forman and Herradura. He is our resident ambassador. He is going to be walking you through the tasting this evening, talking about tequila, about the brand, a little bit about the background and history of tequila, as well as that history of the Herradura distillery itself. So I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Wagner and let him run with this. And obviously there's a chat room. If you have any questions, by all means, join in, ask questions along the way, and we will do our best to get them answered. Pete, it is all yours, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. How's everyone doing? Welcome to everyone. It is me, Pete Wagner, your tequila ambassador. I am the ambassador to Brown-Forman. That's the company that has Jack Daniels, Woodford, Old Forester, specifically tequila. We have El Jimador and Herradura, some of the best tequilas that are out there. As Adam said, one of his favorites. Thank you, Adam, for having us tonight. We are very excited to be here with the Taste Group. And I'm really excited to go through this. This is a rich history with the Herradura family line, and then even more recently with the El Jimador. It goes back years. We can go back all the way back to the Nahuatl tribe, and a bolt of lightning hits a blue agave, the blue weather agave plant, and it let out a milky substance. It was around 1500. When the Spanish conquistador showed up and taught everyone how to do distillation. At that point, we established tequila. Tequila is one of North America's oldest distillates. It's been around since those Spaniards showed up. So Casa Herradura will cut up to 1870. A gentleman named Don Aurelio Lopez is riding his burro through the foothills of the Sierra Madre, and up in the distance, he sees a glimmer of light. He is drawn towards that light, so he travels towards it, and when he gets there, he finds himself a horseshoe. And that is where he decided to establish his distillery. Casa Herradura is the only, it's the last hacienda-made tequila that is in existence in the world. To be a hacienda, that means that it has to be self-sustaining, it has to have a chapel, there has to be a house, there has to be residency for the employees. All of that happens at Casa Herradura. Herradura is the home or the creator of the Reposado and the Extra Añejo. So I tell people to make tequilas like playing chess. It's very easy to do, very complex to master. And the folks at Herradura have done a fantastic job to it. To make the tequila, you go out into the fields, and the Jimadors, those are the folks that harvest the agave, they will go out and they will harvest their agave, blue Weber agave. To be tequila, it can only be blue Weber. They will harvest the agave, pop it out, trim the spines down to the piña. Once it's at the piña, they will take it back and they will cook it. This is where your first difference happens. At Casa Herradura, we choose to use steam ovens as opposed to autoclaves. With the autoclave, they will cook it for about 10 to 12 hours. At Casa Herradura, they will stack tons of these agave into the steam ovens. These ovens, it takes 8 people to load them. If you're lucky, you're one of 4 people that gets to stand outside of the oven. Unfortunately, 4 have to stand inside, and they will stack them from floor to ceiling, from the outside and in. They will actually cook the agave low and slow. They will cook it for a total of 24 to 26 hours. They then will press it, shred it, press it, and they will produce the juice. Once they have the juice, they go through fermentation. This is your second step where we differ from most. At Casa Herradura, we believe in natural fermentation. As opposed to having a proprietary yeast strain, at Casa Herradura, we use the natural yeast that's in the air and around the distillery. Believe it or not, We have over 16 different varieties of fruits growing on the estate at Casa Herradura, each one producing its own yeast strain, which will affect the flavor profile of our product. Once it's fermented, we then put it into pot stills. We like to double distill our tequila. By using the pot still, when you use a pot still, there's two types of stills. There's a column still and there's the pot still. With the column still, you have constant distillation. The product comes in and it will cascade through multiple screens with steam coming up from the bottom. They set the heat source right in between the evaporation point between water and alcohol. If you set that source right in between the two, as it cascades through, the alcohol goes up and the water goes down. With the pot stills, like Casa Herradura uses, they put the entire batch in and then they turn up the heat. With the shape of the pot still, it will create a reflux. So your first sense of flavor comes through the slow and low, just like a barbecue. Once it's put into the pot still, it will evaporate and condense, and evaporate and condense. And that will create a reflux that will create a more pronounced, more nuanced flavor. So we go through this distillation process twice. After that, we go into a barrel. That barrel is what differentiates between the different aging. Casa Herradura is the only tequila house that produces its own barrels. We are actually the largest holder of barrels down in Mexico. All of our barrels are new white American oak barrels. First, we toast them using ultraviolet heat that will caramelize all of the sugars that are in the wood, bringing out your natural baking spices, your vanillas, your caramels, your cloves, your cinnamon, your spice profiles. And then we char it. The charring allows it to open up and breathe. When the weather gets warm, the pores open up, the tequila soaks in. When the weather gets cool, it tightens up, shoots it back. Tequila will get 100% agave tequila will get 100% of the color and roughly about 60% of the flavor from the barrel itself. And I reiterate, we are the only ones that make our own barrels. So, that being said, we're going to go through the different profiles. With Casa Herradura, we actually have, with the Herradura, we have a variety. We've created two of the categories. We actually created the Reposado and the Extra Añejo category. We are a lowland tequila. Your first breakdown for tequila, you have 100% agave, and then you have misto. With a misto, only 51% of the agave is coming, or 51% of the sugars are coming from the agave, and the rest are coming from outside sources. With 100% agave, obviously, all of the sugars are coming from the agave plant. After that breakdown, we are going to break it into either highland or lowland. Your highland tequilas are, all that means is that your tequila, your agave is growing up in the Sierra Madre, up in the mountains. That creates a lighter, sweeter profile. Herradura is a lowland tequila. That means that all of the agave plant grows down in the foothills of the Sierra Madre. I want you to think about this. When it does rain down in Mexico, all those rich nutrients, all of those minerals, they all go down to the bottom, and that gives flavor to the agave plant. We are a lowland tequila, so we are going to be more herbaceous. We're going to have more spice and more of a minerality. It actually has a drier quality to it. So you have 100% agave, you have a lowland tequila, you have natural fermentation, you have slow and low with your clay ovens. Let's get into our tasting. As we taste these tequilas, a quick tip on tasting. When you fill up your glass, you're going to fill up with just a bit. You'll hold it about this far away from your nose. As you breathe in, open your mouth. About 60 to 70% of what you taste is actually from your nose. That's why when you get a cold, you're unable to taste things. You hold it about this far away from your nose and you breathe in. Now, you don't want to get too close. You do get too close, you can burn your palate. You won't be able to taste or smell anything. So you'll get about this far away and you breathe in. That's where we get our more feminine profiles. You'll get your your fruit floral notes out of it. You'll get that natural agave citrus profile. Then you're going to want to go ahead and get your nose a little deeper in there. And as you breathe in, you're going to, that smells good. You're going to get your more masculine profiles. Those are your heavy spices. You're going to get your vanilla, your caramel, but you'll get like your clove, your cinnamon, your leather, your tobacco. A lot of those profiles coming from that barrel. So now if for some reason you did get a little overly excited, just go ahead, sniff the back of your hand. Believe it or not, your own scent will neutralize your palate and allows you to get to more of those flavor profiles. Now I will tell you this, for all the ladies out there, if you're wearing perfume, don't do that. You're not going to get the desired effect. You're going to smell the perfume. And for all the men out there, that's just weird. So please. So go ahead, take a whiff. There you go. The first tequila that we're going to taste is the El Jimador Silver or Blanco. Silver or Blanco is the original category. That means that it's typically unaged. Where Casa Herradura created 2 of the categories and we are working on a 3rd, believe it or not, silvers are typically unaged. We cheat every category. We push it to its limits. Where the typical silver is unaged, ours is actually aged for 45 days in those oak barrels. So go ahead, pour yourself a little, take a nose and take a taste on that. I'm going to myself. You are going to find on the nose, there is that tequila agave profile. The agave has a citrus profile. It's light, it's sweet, it's citrusy. You're going to notice that this has a lot more minerality to it. The sweetness is not overwhelming. It's a little bit drier. And then we're going to go ahead and take a taste. Delicious. It's bright. You get the herbaceousness with the lowland tequila. The finish is dry. It's not overwhelmingly sweet. It has a nice balance to it. 45 days in a barrel, as you may or may not be able to see, that has a straw-like quality to it. 45 days in the barrel means that it takes that agave profile. As we age these tequilas, it's going to go from those citrus, bright, dry notes, and then it's going to start rounding itself off. It's going to start having more of those barrel notes to it. So let's go ahead and move on to our second tequila. The next one is the Reposado. Reposado means rested. This Reposado, again, we created this. Before Casa Herradura created the Reposado, all tequila was silver, unaged. It was the family that produces Herradura that decided that it would bring on softer notes by putting it into a barrel. And that's what they did. Most Reposados are only rested for 2 months. This Reposado is actually aged for 11 months. That is 1 month shy of an añejo. Let's go ahead and take a nose and take a taste of Reposado. Now, this is one of my favorite tequilas. Before I drank this, I'll be honest with you, I was not a fan of tequila. This has such a nice balance to it. On your first sip, I'm doing the Jalisco chew. As you sip it, aerate your palate. That allows the alcohols to evaporate and the flavor profiles, the congeners will combine together and create different flavor profiles. And as I do that, I'm getting a multitude of flavors. First, I get that herbaceousness that we got on the first one, but then the dryness comes in and some of that oak finds its way in. We're getting slight vanilla notes. It's still sharp on the palate at this point. Perfect for making margaritas. I like to take classic cocktails and substitute out our tequilas. I tell people it's the most versatile liquor here. And the fact that you can take any vodka drink and replace it with silver, and you can take any whiskey drink and replace it with a Reposado or an añejo. I actually use the Reposado to make old fashions. It is delicious. This one in particular has a nice balance between the two, and all of a sudden the spice is starting to come forward. I'm starting to get almost a cedar-like quality, and those oak notes are just really showing up. The next tequila that we're going to sample is Herradura and Añejo. Herradura and Añejo means aged, where most Añejo are only 1 year old. Herradura and Añejo is actually aged for 2 years. Now, that is just shy of an extra Añejo, but that just means that they've given it a little more time. It sits in that barrel for 2 years, and as we discussed, it's going to sit there. It's going to bring on more and more of those oak notes. It's also going to mingle with that barrel. As the tequila sits in the barrel, the longer it sits in there, you have a few things happening. Cheers. As the tequila sits in the barrel, a few things happen. Your typical barrel will lose about 3 to 7% every year due to evaporation. You hear this term with whiskey. It applies definitely with the tequilas as well. It's called the angel share. The gods gave you the product, you give something back. So it will age, and a lot of what leaks out, doesn't leak out, what evaporates is water. So as that evaporates, the water evaporates, you get concentration, the flavor becomes more pronounced, and the proof will actually go up. But as it also sits in that barrel, you're bringing on what's called extraction. You're bringing on more and more of those oak notes to it. You're adding some of those sweeter notes from the baking process, but also you have oxidation. By toasting it first, you're caramelizing all of the natural sugars that are in the barrel, and those sugars will start to break down the longer you age them. As you age them, it gets softer and softer on your palate. So you see, we went from sharp, crisp notes with citrus and herbaceousness, and slowly we're migrating. And you still have that dryness, that minerality to it. That always stays there. We'll consider that the backbone. But then it starts to shift into a more oaky note. It starts to shift into a softer mouthfeel. And that's the Herradura and Añejo. And Añejo, meaning aged for 2 years. This one definitely a lot softer on the palate. This one definitely a lot more of those baking notes to it. Take a nose, take a sip. And there's those wood notes. The herbaceousness goes into the oak notes. The spice starts to come through from that barrel. This reminds me so much of my mother used to have a cedar closet. And that's the best way to describe when we talk about flavor profiles with this. I once had a fantastic woman that I work with. She said, break it down. What does the flavor remind you of? Someone said, grandma's perfume. You're like, okay, what kind of perfume? It's a flowery perfume. What kind of flower? It's a rose. Okay, so it has this rose petal quality to it. This one in particular, it has those cedar-like qualities, the dryness, the herbaceousness that we talked about earlier. Definitely a delicious cocktail. This I would drink neat. You might try a classic cocktail on the rocks. Definitely something special. We do also have the Selección Supremo, which is our extra añejo that is aged for 3 years. Delicious, super soft on your palate. And then just a few years ago, we introduced something new to the market, and that is Herradura Ultra. What is Herradura Ultra? This is a treat. If you can find this, this is definitely one you're going to want to try to get your hands on. Herradura Ultra is a combination of the añejo, the extra añejo. Now wait, you say, but Pete, that's clear. How can that be an añejo or an extra añejo? Follow me. I work for Brown-Forman, right? We are the last family-owned liquor company, or we're the last American-owned liquor company. We are a family-owned liquor company, largest holder of agave, largest holder of barrels. We also own Jack Daniels. What is Jack Daniels known for? It is charcoal. Herradura Ultra is a combination of the añejo and the extra añejo. They marry them together and they filter it through charcoal. It's not just any charcoal though. Believe it or not, we filter it through coconut charcoal. They will actually create charcoal from the coconut, Before they drip it through that charcoal, they're going to add 1% agave nectar to add a touch of sweetness. So this has all of the attributes of an añejo and an extra añejo. You're getting those barrel sugars, you're getting those vanillas, the caramels, you're getting the softness, you're getting those oak notes. And then it's mellowed out with the charcoal. As it filters through the charcoal, there's oils that will find their way into that take out some of the more bitter notes. 1% agave adds a slight sweetness, and then on the back palate, you're going to get just a hint of coconut. A combination of both. Delicious, nice, beautiful dessert. This is neat. This is on the rocks. Just a beautiful portfolio here. I'm going to go ahead and reach out to everyone. That is your Herradura tasting. That is 4 different tequilas. I'm going to reach out and see if anybody has any questions right now. Please feel free. Type in, reach out to your chat room. I have a friend of mine, Patrick Knorr, who's on the chat room and answering any questions you may have. Any questions about tequila whatsoever?
Hey, I got a question for you, Pete. I know that, a lot of people ask about how these things are made. Bourbons are made with this and vodka's made with that. And I think most people know that tequila's made with agave. Is there like and I don't know this person myself that deep, but is there a certain period of time that I've heard you have to grow agave for a certain period of time before you can harvest it and you can actually use it? And I've also heard there's possible shortages in agaves over the past couple of years because the tequila industry has grown so much and it's one of the most sought after liquors and spirits right now. I mean, could you touch on those 2 points a little bit?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, first off, we are not concerned about running out of agave. We are the largest holder of agave down in Mexico. I think we have something like 22,000 acres of agave. So the Blue Weber agave is actually one of 126 different types of agave. If you are making it with something other than that, that just shifts it into the mezcal category. Now, as far as your other question was aging, it takes roughly 6 to 8 years for the agave to fully mature. It originally starts underground, and then it will sprout through, and it can get up to 10 feet tall. So you can imagine these humidors, they go out with what's called a koa. It looks like a pizza spatula, very sharp, very sharp. I can tell you firsthand, when I was down there, they allowed me to try to harvest that agave, and I nearly took off my toe. So they'll go out there, and they do it really fast. These people are professionals. I was told by the humidors that they actually have an apprenticeship that lasts for up to 5 years. For 5 years, they will be an apprentice humidor. They will follow their master humidor to see how to harvest the agave, how to trim it down and bring it back, which is just amazing to hear. But imagine at 10 feet tall, for perspective, I'm 6 feet. So that's almost double. That's me plus 4 feet. Going out, and because this soil is essentially lava rock, it's shallow, it's dry, it's minerally, they can pop out that agave relatively easily. There are very short roots that are in there. They will pop it out and then trim it down. And even that piña can weigh hundreds of pounds. I personally, when I trimmed one down, the piña was probably around this large. Then they split it and then they move it on. So you can imagine 8 to 10 years for it to harvest.
That's pretty amazing. I mean, I don't think people realize, other industries, they're growing every year. Beer industry, you're growing hops every year. Corn and wheat, and those things are a little bit easier to grow. Obviously, the agave is not quite as easy to produce, and it takes more time. So there's a little bit more something special with the whole aspect of tequila drinking and tequila production. So how long has Herradura been producing tequila? I mean, and where exactly are they located? I hear of Jalisco, I hear of the highlands. Is that like the general area? Is there the high mountains, low mountains? I mean, is there specific areas that stand out more, or where Herradura is compared to both of those?
Herradura is located in Jalisco, Amatitan, and that is in the foothills of the Sierra Mountains. So It's definitely a drier region that's down there.
So the next question is when are we taking a trip? Because I would love to see Herradura. Like I said at the beginning of this thing, I mean, Herradura is my favorite, so I'm dying to make a road trip down to Jalisco. I'm leaving for Arizona here in a few weeks, so it ain't too far away.
That would be fantastic. The last that I heard, all of our distilleries are sadly not open to visitors at the moment. And I will have to say, if you get a chance to go down there, though, it's well worth the visit. It's just outside of Guadalajara. Anytime that I've been there, we've camped out in Guadalajara, and then it's a beautiful drive to get there. And again, it's a hacienda. So you will go through the gates. You will see that there's housing when you go through the gates on the left-hand side that are for the employees. And then it's a full hacienda. There's a full estate. There's the distillery. It is a chapel. The little side note, there's actually a tunnel that leads from the original distillery. The original distillery operated until 1963 from 1924 until 1963 under the original processes. So there's actually a tunnel that goes from the original distillery underneath. And as I said earlier, to be a hacienda, it has to have a chapel that goes to the chapel. And the idea behind that is if there were people invading the hacienda, the one place that nobody ever invaded was the chapel. So you quickly escape over to the chapel. Now, these days, obviously, that's not something we worry about. The worst thing that we worry about, is a sleepy drive home. That's it.
Well, especially after a few days of drinking tequila, you're going to be a little beat up on the way home. That's for sure.
It's a beautiful problem to have. I will. So,
very cool. So, you made a mention about mezcal earlier. Does Herradura do anything in the mezcal industry? Are they planning on doing everything? I haven't personally seen it. I didn't know if the Brown-Forman portfolio has anything as well in the mezcal area.
We have not. Now, obviously, that's a different category altogether. That affords different agave. The original process was where you bake it in the earth so that the way I equate it, whiskey-wise, it's sort of like scotches to bourbon. It has that smokier quality out there, just in case anybody out there isn't aware. So at the moment, we do not have anything in the works, but I will tell you mezcal is a growing category. Right now, tequila is one of the fastest growing categories that are out there. People are going crazy for tequila. The days of throwing cheap swill tequila into a margarita are gone. People are out looking for quality. They're looking for estates. They're looking for process. So we are definitely seeing more and more in the style of innovation, which is probably what you'll see as opposed to the mezcal. I know that we have finished Herradura in cognac barrels and port barrels. Barrel finishes are huge right now. So and tequila has a large number of flavors to it. So to be able to accent some of those it's not only beautiful, it's delicious, it's fun. There's a lot that's going on down at Casa Herradura.
Very, very cool. Well, I very much appreciate your time. We've had a very good relationship with Herradura over the years, and both El Jimador and Herradura has been in our Tequila Fest in Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, Phoenix, Willoughby. We were supposed to do Myrtle Beach this year for our first year, but obviously due to COVID, we were unable to do it, but we'll be there next year, and we're expanding other markets. And as far as I'm concerned, Herradura is always one of those brands that needs to be, must be, has to be at all of our events. It's a pleasure working with the Brown-Forman team, and I very much appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to people about this. And I know there's going to be a ton of people that'll be able to watch this video even after tonight and be able to reference to it and learn a ton about tequila. So Pete, again, thank you so very much for taking the time out tonight, walking us through these awesome tequilas and sharing some of your knowledge.
Adam, thank you so much for having us. Folks out there, be safe. Remember, you can get all of these products at your local store. Have fun with it. This is tequila. It's meant to be enjoyed. Try things, experiment, and be safe, right?
Absolutely. All the best, you Pete. Take care, man.
Thank you so much, Adam. You have a good day. Be well.
Folks, I hope you all enjoyed our little tasting here tonight. Just so you know, this past couple weekends ago, we do a special event called Pepper Day with some friends of mine here in the Cleveland area. And I actually grabbed some El Herradura and some habaneros that I grew personally myself, and we did a habanero infused tequila, and it was quite delish. Makes for great if you want to mix it with some pineapple. That sweet and that heat go really, really well together. If you're looking for a great cocktail during the warm months, mix tequila, pineapple, phenomenal together. Patrick also was with Brown Forman. Even suggested ginger beer, doing a Mexican mule with it as well. So a couple really cool drinks. But if you haven't had it before, El Herradura is a great kind of more of like that middle of the road entry level. Herradura, a little bit more of that top shelf premium type of tequila. Both phenomenal brands. They take a lot of time and energy putting into this, and they make some really, really good tequila. I'm rather enjoying mine tonight. I've been drinking all three. Actually, technically all four. I've got the Blanco, the Repo, the Añejo, and the Ultra as well. So a good night for me, and I guess I'm going to probably keep drinking these when we're done. So thank you so much for tuning in. We will be coming back to you again with some more live virtual tastings via Taste USA in our cities that we work in, currently Phoenix and Cleveland. And if we have tequila, they will be spread across the Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, Willoughby, Myrtle Beach, and Phoenix areas as well. So I hope you have a chance to join us here in the future. All the best to everybody. Be safe, be well, enjoy yourselves, and take care.
Tequila Herradura.